Okay, so let's look at our one up here. All right, on this first one, we'll work through it all the way through in just a second, but I want you to think about it like this, okay? So the first part here, it's 3 over 6, okay? So 3 over 6, what is that equal to? Like as a, it's equal to 1/2, right? 3 is half of 6, right? So since this is proportional, this number up top has to be half of this number, just like this is half of this. So if this up here is going to be half of 8, what's half of 8?
4.
Is 4. So the top part here just needs to be 4. So what does x have to be to make this top part 4?
7.
It's got to be 7, right? Because 7 minus 3 is what? 4, all right? So, I mean, I'm telling you right now, we're going to work through this, but it's going to tell you x is 7, okay? To make this equal to this. Because 3 is half of 6, 4 is half of 8, and to make this 4, x would be 7. So, let's work through it real quick. So, what is 3 times 8? It's 24. We put our equal sign. Now we're going to multiply going the other way. And remember, you got to distribute. It's 6 times x minus 3. So what is 6 times x? Is 6x. And what is 6 times negative 3?
Negative 18.
Is negative 18. Okay? Then from there we solve for x. So what's my first step?
Add 18.
Add 18 to both sides. That's going to give me 42 over here. This zeroes out, 6x. Then what? Divide by 6. That turns into a 1x. And 42 divided by 6 is 7. So there you go. X is 7, just like I told you. Now that one's fairly easy to see. Some of them aren't quite that easy to see, like what I started off with there. Like on number 2. Okay, what's negative 2 or negative 4 times 2?
Negative 8.
Is negative 8. Okay. Now what is x minus 1 times 3? Or 3 times x minus 1, however you want to say it. 3x minus 3, right?
Then you add 3.
Alrighty. Right, because you got to distribute. So 3 times x is 3x, and the 3 times negative 1 gives you negative 3 here. Yep, so now we're going to add 3 to both sides, getting the x by itself. So these zero out. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5 equals 3x. Divide by 3. And can't really simplify that. You could get a decimal on it, but I'm just going to leave it as negative 5/3. Okay, number 3. What's 4 times 7? It's 28. Put the equal sign, multiply on the other side here on the other wing. What's x plus 3 times 8? 8x plus 24. Remember, you got to distribute. The 8 has to get multiplied times each piece up there. 8x and 24. All right, subtract 24. This zero rows out, you get 4 here, you get 8x here, divided by 8. And 4 divided by 8 is 1/2, or 0.5. Okay, next one. So we're looking for this part right here. So how are we going to set up our proportion on this one?
4, 15.
Okay, I'm going to say 12 is to 15 as... Okay, we've got to be careful. If I go from here to here, I've got to go from here to here. I've got to keep it consistent. So 12 is to 15 as x is to 25, and then from there we just cross multiply and solve. So we get 15x equals 300 divided by 15, and it's what? 20. Okay, on this last one, we could set up the proportion. We're not going to do that here, okay? Assuming these are similar, What do you do to get from 8 to 4? Cut it in half, right? So since these are similar, all the sides are going to relate to each other in the same way. So to get from here to here, you just cut it in half, so it's going to be the same relationship from here to here. So how long is that going to be?
5.
It's just 5. It's half of 10. Okay, so today what we're talking about is just different proportional relationships in triangles, okay? So on this first one, it says if a line parallel to a side of a triangle intersects the other two sides, then it divides those sides proportionally, okay? So what do these two little arrowheads mean here again? Means parallel. You see that extra set of arrowheads, it means that they're parallel. So notice what this says right here. If that's parallel, then BX, okay, I'm talking about this right here. BX is to XA as BY is to YC, okay? All right, so on this one right below here, what we're looking for is the length from E to G. Looking for the length from E to G. Now, since these two lines are parallel right here, it divides these pieces proportionally, okay? So X is to 7.5. So we're going from here to here. So X is to 7.5 is what?
6, 5.
As 6 is to 5. Yep. Now, I'll say this here. I'm not going to jump into it real big right now. But when you're dealing with proportionality like this, there's always more than one way to set it up that's good. Okay? There's also ways to set it up that are not good, that would give you the wrong answer. Okay? So there are a lot of other ways to set this up, but I want to set up one way that would give you the wrong answer. Okay? So let's say I said X is to 7.5. What would be the wrong way to set it up? As 5 is to 6. Okay? If you set it up like this, you would get the wrong answer. I just want you to see that. You've got to be consistent. If you go from here to here, then you've got to go from here to here. Like on this one that I did wrong, I said, okay, this is to this, and then I went as this is to this. See how I went backwards from the other way? So it's got to be this over this equals this over this. So this would give you the wrong answer. All right, so now let's just cross multiply. So what is 7.5 times 6?
45.
Is 45. And what is 5 times x?
5x.
Is 5x. Divide both sides by 5. And so x equals 9. So EG is 9. All right, so down here at the bottom. Okay, I want to find the length of RQ. So from here to here is what I'm looking for. So there's where my x goes. Now again, there's more than one way to do this that would be good. There's definitely more than one way to do it that would be bad also, but okay. These two lines are parallel, so it divides this proportionally. So how do you think we could set up a proportion here to find that value of x?
X is 6.
Okay, say again. Okay, 12 is to 6
As x is to 7.
as x is to 7. Now, before we even work this out, I just want you to look at this and notice what's going on here. Okay, so how does this 12 relate to this 6 right here? Well, however you want to think about it. It's either double that or this is cut in half from there, right? So this right here and this are going to relate in the same way. So 6 is half of 12, so 7 is half of what?
14.
Of 14. So I'm already telling you right now the answer is going to be 14, okay? This is half of this, so this is going to relate to this in the same way. So I already know it's 14, but let's work it out real quick. So what's 6 times x? 6x. What is 12 times 7?
84.
Is 84. And we divide both sides by 6. And what is 84 divided by 6? Is 14. Okay. Now, again, let's set it up in a way that would be wrong. So let's say I did 12 is to 6. What would be the wrong way to do it? 7 is to x. That way right there would give you the wrong way. Remember, you got to just be consistent. However you start on the first one, you've got to go in the same way for the second ratio that you set up. Okay, on this one, I'm looking for JN, so I'm looking for this right here. So I'm going to say like 20. What do you think? Okay, 20 is to 38 as 16 is to x. So again, see how I'm keeping this consistent. This goes to this as this goes to this. Got to go in the same order. This to this, this to this. Alrighty, now let's see what this is. So 38 times 16 is what?
608.
Say it one more time. 6 what?
608.
608 equals 20x divided by 20.
152 over 5.
Okay, go ahead and give me a decimal on that.
30.4.
Okay. Alrighty. Number 3. Show that TU and WX are parallel. All right, so I want to know, are they parallel or not? So let's see if that is divided proportionally. So let's set it up. 18 is to what? To 6 as 45 is to 15. 18 is to 6 as 45 is to 15. What is 18 divided by 6? It's 3. What's 45 divided by 15? 3. So are those two equal to each other? Yes. And so going back to this up here, the converse of that, since it is divided proportionally, we know that those two lines, TU and WX, are parallel to each other. All right. On the back. So here's just another thing that happens in triangles where we find a situation where it divides things proportionally. So this says if you have an angle bisector that divides the opposite sides into two segments whose lengths are proportional to the two lengths of the other sides. Okay, so if this angle is equal to this angle, in other words, this AY right here is the bisector. If those two angles right here and right here are congruent, then it divides this proportionally. Okay, so now I want you to get that little piece of paper there. Okay, now first thing I want you to see here is, okay, and you don't have a protractor, I just want you to see this. So how big is this angle right here? So this is kind of hard to read, but here's 40, there's 45, 46. It's about 47 degrees, okay? And then on this one, same thing, if you measure this one's about 47 degrees also. Okay, and it's not exact, but I tried to get as close as I could. So these two right here, very, very similar. So what I want you to do now with your ruler is I want you to measure this from here to here in centimeters. Okay, so looks like it may be a little bit closer to 15.8, but it's kind of between there, so I'm going to go with 15.8. I think it's a little bit closer to that. All right. Now let's measure from here, measure from there to there. long is that? About 12.2. Okay, now let's measure from here to here. It is nearly exactly 6 centimeters. And now measure from here to here. Yeah, 7.8, 7.7. I think it's a little bit closer to 7.7. I'm going to go with that. Okay, so what that just said is when you have an angle bisector, that's what this line would be right here. So when these two angles are equal, it's going to divide this proportionally. Okay, so the 6 is to the 7.7 as what? 6 is to 7.7 is what? 12.2 is to 15.8. Okay, so what I want you to do in your calculator is type this into 6 divided by 7.7. Tell me what that is as a decimal. Okay, 0.779. All right, now do 12.2 divided by 15.8. See what that is. It's 0.772, something like that. Okay, so I want you to notice right here, the 0.779 and 0.772, are those pretty close to each other? Very, very close, okay? And the reason they're not exactly the same is because on some of these, we were kind of, it was like in between. This angle's not exactly cut in half, but theoretically, both of these should be exactly the same. So that 6 over 7.7 is equal to this 12.2 over this 15.8, okay? So again, it's just another situation where we have, in a triangle, where things are proportional. All right. So let's drop down to the bottom down here. Look at number 4. All right, so on this one, okay, the x is to the what? X is to 8 as, okay, as x plus 2 is to 12. The x is to the 8 as the x plus 2 is to the 12. All right, so let's cross multiply here. So what's 12 times x? 12x. What is 8 times x plus 2? 8x plus 16. All right, again, we've got to distribute 8 times the x and 8 times the 2. All right, so we're going to subtract 8x from both sides. That's going to give us 4x equals 16. Divide both sides by 4. And so x equals what? 4. X equals 4. All right, so this x is 4. Let's see if that makes sense. So if x is 4, how long is it from E to F? 4. It's 4, right? Now think about this, okay? This 4, how does that relate to this number right here? It's half of it, right? So how is this number going to relate to this one? It's going to be half. So if this is 12, what should this be? 6. Okay? And if I have 4 and I plug in 4 here, what's 4 plus 2? 6. So is that right? That's right. That's what it needs to be. They relate to each other in the same way. Okay? This is half of this. This is half of this. So that looks good. All right. Number 5. Okay? Now we're going to set this one up. And again, there's on all these where it's proportional, and these are going to be proportional because this angle's bisected. There's going to be more than one way to set it up.
40 is to 16.
Okay, we can say 40 is to 16 as 3y is to y plus 3. Okay. So 16 times 3y is 48y. And then 40 times y plus 3. What's 40 times y? 40y. And what's 40 times 3? Is 120. All right. Take 40y away from both sides. That way this side, the y's 0 out. On this side, I have 8y left equal to 120. Divide by 8.
15.
It equals what? Equals 15. So if y is 15, question is how long is RV? So right here, 3 times 15 is what? 45. And if y is 15, how long is TV?
18.
Is 18. 15 plus 3, that gives you 18. So this is 45. This is 18. Okay. Number 6. Am I going to set this one up?
Where's the x minus 1?
Okay. 4 is to x minus 1 as 5 is to x plus 3. All right. Work that out. Alrighty, so we get, what's x minus 1 times 5? 5x minus 5. And what is 4 times x plus 3? Good, 4x plus 12. Remember, you got to have to distribute there. Alright, and then from there, just solving for x. So we get the x's together, subtract 4x from both sides, so that zeroes out. We get 1x minus 5 equals 12. Add 5 to both sides, and x should equal 17. Looks like most of you got it, so that's good.